Nau mai, haere mai, and welcome to this presentation by Robyn Williams on the NZSG's Library Catalogue.
What I'm showing you is my front screen for when I clicked into the NZSG log website, and I have logged on so that I can do some things in the library that I normally wouldn't have to do, but just so that everybody is on the same page and can see, I've decided to go and hit log in. However, if you don't want to log in, you can do a whole lot of things without logging in, and all you need to do is go to the tab for NZSG services, and you can either log in through the NZSG library or the library cat. Now, I'm not going to do either then. I'm logged in, and you can see me as being logged in here, and I'm going to go to this tab, which takes me to the library and means that I'm logged in. Goodness, tells me I have to refresh it. Oh, okay, so that's actually not going to work for me, isn't it a jolly pity? So I shall just go in and go as a guest through the library cat. When you go in as a guest, you'll see the guest up here, and I had hoped that I would be in there with my name, but however, I will just explain what you have to do when we're doing it that way. So on this front page of the library catalogue, there's quite a number of things that we are going to have a little look at. One of the things is my list, the reserves, the visual search, and the search box. But first thing I'm going to do, and it's what most people will do first, is search for something. Now, I always believe that you can, that one word searches are much better if you can, because they're quicker and they'll often just get you the results you want. And as we know with genealogy, that if you've got a common name, you often find all sorts of erroneous things or things that you don't really want to look at. And that's so with my surname of Williams, hundreds of thousands of Williams, and certainly not what I would like to look at. But I have found a name which explains quite a number of things. So the name is Shine, and it will bring up some things that we don't want to look at, but it will also bring up some things that are that we do want to look at. So I bring that up, and I find that there are 9 resources that tell me about Shine. When I'm looking at it, this is the default view. But if you go over here to the view, you can either make the icons bigger if you'd like to have them look like that. But my choice is to have them this way so that I can actually see more of what the item is. Now I'm going to go through all these 9 things, or nearly all of them, and just explain one by one what it's showing us. So one of the important things is the classification. And this book, which says A Lamp Shines in Kerikeri, and it gives you the author and the year it was published. Probably it's come up because it's got its name there, but that's not always the case, and I always believe that you need to go and look at everything. In the classification, we've got it as NZ, this is now New Zealand book. Kerikeri is in Northland, and it's obviously something to do with local history of Kerikeri. So let's just go and have a little look at it. Now, unfortunately, this is one of these books that has actually got very, very little detail. And one of the reasons for that is because it's a legacy book. It was probably in the library and probably entered in the 1970s before we had computers, and it has never been upgraded. One of these days we will get around to upgrading it, but at the moment that's all we can see. And if I was wanting to look at every book that was about Kerikeri, I would have a look at it. But anyway, for this purpose, I'm just showing you so that you know that we do have some legacy books that we haven't added detail to. Okay, so we're going to have another look at this one, the next one, Come Rain or Shine. women around New Zealand. Again, this one's got just a little bit of detail. It tells you the year it was published, and it's got an ISBN number, and it tells you it's about biographies of women. We will get around to putting all the names of those women that are sharing their stories, but this is another one that we haven't actually been able to do anything with as yet. I think, probably over half our library is in that way. Here's one that looks very interesting, and what it's done is it's clicked straight to the contents page. Again, it's something that it's not probably going to tell us anything about a person with a surname called Shine. And so let's just have a look and see what the information on the front of it is. And yes, this is one that's got a huge amount of information about that book, and the notes tell us about it. Not particularly useful for our purposes for this today. Now, there's another way that instead of just clicking out like that, like I have been doing, I've been doing it deliberately, but my normal thing is to do it another way, and I'll do that the next time. Okay, here's one from James Cook High School, and I can't see what it's doing, but if I move the slider, I will see it's actually here, and here is Shine. Possibly it's got something, but it probably hasn't. Now, here's my preferred way to look through them, is to use this arrow here to go to the next one. Oh, here we are. This is something that perhaps I was really looking for. Mary Ann Shine, it's probably born in 1840. Now, this is a family history, and it's under the name of Follis. If I didn't know that, it's told me something. So maybe this is something that I want to have a look at. It says here, no copy available until the 23rd of November. Why do you think that is? It's because somebody has borrowed it. And that person that's borrowed it has been me, because I was just interested to see what it says about this family. And so it'll be back in the library either early next week or maybe even the weekend. Okay, we'll just look through the rest of them just in case. And what have we got here? It's indicating by this little cross that it's something here, and I can't see it. Oh, yes, it is. Here it is, Science Shines. So that's one that we don't want to really look at. Aha, look at this one. Now, this is well, we'll go to the front and have a look at it in a minute, but there's a bishop called Thomas Shine. And here he is again. And just in case there happens to be, no, there's nothing very much more. So we'll go back to the information, and we see that he is in Yorkshire, and it's a church history in Yorkshire. Now, if I hadn't have looked through all of those, if I'd just done it from the front and just looked at the title and may have just just skipped over it, I would have missed that, wouldn't I? So that's why, it's always useful to go through them all. And I think that's all of them. So there you are. That was 9 different books, or different resources that we had. But then there's one other thing that I would like to show you again. And if I put in Shine here again, and instead of just going clack, I go down to this all fields here. And remember, we had 9 resources before. There's now 33. And maybe I wouldn't go through as many as 33, but if it was my family, I'd be going through and looking for ones that were family histories. And by doing that, I would find what I was looking for. So, that sort of explains what each of the sorts of books or resources there are. Thought was actually another one that should have come up. Oh no, that's the one I've got. Yeah. Okay. So if perhaps I wanted to have a little look at one of these, if I click onto that, I can go add it to my list. So that's all I need to do. If I just want to go back and have a further look at that, or maybe I want to see if it was indexed, because that's the other thing that we do indicate as to whether it's indexed or not. And if it's indexed, then our library volunteers are only too happy to have a look to see if your name, the name that you specifically are looking for, is mentioned in that book, and maybe email you a couple of pages out of that book so that you can see more. There are many things that we can do like that. Okay, I think I'll probably work through that one enough. The other thing is, if you are wanting to get have a look at some of the books for a place in New Zealand, it's always good to just do it for a small place. And one of the places that I've thought about is Maunganui. I've spelled it correctly. Just let's see. And yes, I have, because it's in Northland. It's the one that I want. And if we have a look here, and we can see here that these are all the books on Maunganui. There's 17. And if we had a look, we might find that some of these people, like this one from Family History, that had people in Maunganui. There's, any number of things that we might have liked to have had a look at. This cemetery transcription, and maybe I want to have a little look at that. So there's another way that we can do to add to my list, and it's just hover over it and drop it into the list, except that didn't work. Maybe it's this one. Yes, there it is. And so now I've got two things on my list. Let's put another one in, just to pull it and put it in your list. Now, unfortunately, because I couldn't log on, I can't reserve a book, but you do exactly the same thing for reserving. You click on something and you put it in there, and then you send a little note to the librarian, say, I would like to borrow this book. But before you did that, what I suggest you do is have a little look at the actual book, and perhaps this is a good one, and see how big it is. This one has 17 pages. It'll probably just fit in a very small envelope. Might not tell you very much, although it's monumental inscriptions, and maybe it's just what you're looking for. That one's a reference book, so you can't borrow it. But if you could, that wouldn't cost you too much to borrow, whereas some of those big, thick ones will. But you might be able to find it in a library near you, or ask the librarian, the library volunteers via the research services to have a look at the index, just to see whether there is your name showing in the index. Okay, so now if we just go back and just have a little look at my list. So we've got our list there, and those are the three that I just pushed into there, and it could be anything that you're wanting to have a look at. You've got a few options. You can view my list, decide, oh, you don't want anything to do with it again, so you can clear it. You can make a citation, and I'm just going to do that because I quite like this. When I'm wanting to add something to my family history program, I want a good citation. So the one I choose is Harvard, but you've got all the others that you can use as well. So if I just click on that, and you will then see what brings you up. Here's all the books there, and then if I just pull the slider down, here is how it is described in using those citations. And I can click on those and copy and paste them back into my program. Okay, so the options are there. If you want to send it to the librarian, you need to actually be logged in, and you need to do that from the front screen, as I was attempting to do, but unfortunately it didn't happen because it doesn't work from here. But it would have a similar box, and you would actually be able to send a message to the librarian. And one of the volunteers will pick that up and deal with it. The other thing you can do is print your list. Maybe you're going to, and it'll just do as a PDF, and maybe you're going to go to making a visit to the FRC, and you want to have a little look at a whole lot of different things. You just make a big long list and then print it out on your printer, or do it as a PDF or whatever, anything that you're able to do to make it easier. Okay, so I think we're done with our list, so what I'm going to do is clear it. It's all gone. So that's really something for you. Now, the other thing that you might like to do, if it's one of the first things that you've ever come and used the library, is to use this visual search. And this is set up, and it isn't foolproof, but it does give you a good opportunity to have a little look to see at some of the resources. So if we click into Ireland, and if we go into the BDMs, we can have a look to see we've got 31 resources for Irish BDMs. And again, I like to go back to have my screen that way so that I can actually see more of what we've got. Now, further coming down here, this is the classification for Ireland if I was looking for something that was an Antrim. And this is what you need to be able to just make a note of as you're going through if you want to do an advanced search doing the other sorts of things. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment or two. Here's Donegal. And just trying to go through and just see if I can pick up some others. This is, I can't remember what LDY is. I should remember, but I don't. There's Dublin. And so on here's Armagh. I know what this is. This is Londonderry. So this is how you can find, you know, the various places. So if I want to do an advanced search and just look for some particular things for the whole county, I can either go and just make a search in here, or if I want to do something specific, I go to the advanced search and go down to the classification. And what I need to do is put in the correct ones, which is IRL dot, and you don't need to use capitals, even though it is in capitals there, and perhaps just go ROS. I really just want BDMs, and I just hope there are some, and go enter. No records. Oh, that would be typical, isn't it? Just to not get ones that. So again, if I go down there, in actual fact, what I should have done, and I didn't do it, although I don't think there are any, if I just go to there, and if I put an asterisk, which is like that, I will get whatever is available for Roscommon with the asterisk. And there's 25 resources for Roscommon. I bet there weren't any BDMs. There should be, but there aren't. So that's how you use the searching if you're looking for just everything that you've got. If you're just searching for, you can actually search on these other ones as well. But I think that using the advanced search, that this is the easiest way to, as for a starter, to do. And as you become more proficient, you'll learn how to be able to use it a little easier in different ways. Now, the other thing I was going to show you, and I can only do it if I was logged in, is how to renew your book. Now, if I'd borrowed this book here, let's just get this out of the way, cancel. If I'd borrowed this book and it was showing as part of the ones that I had, if I just hover my mouse over the actual title, up would come a thing there that says renew. And if you'd clicked on it, that's how you renew a book. It's so, so easy. I'll just do one more search for a surname, and it is O'Leary, just so that you do know that you can actually search for what's it done. I do it there. It only gives me 2 resources, but if I do it again and I go to all fields, it gives me 9 resources. So there are a big difference between, you know, doing how you actually execute your searches. And in this case, O'Leary is actually editor of these ones, and it's probably what you don't want. There's an editor there, author. But I did find some, here's a biography of an O'Leary. And that's right, I found this one here. And here's Granny O'Leary and her family. So if I hadn't have done that search by going all fields, I would never have found this one. And maybe it's one, maybe the other names are ones that I recognise. They don't happen to be, but maybe they could be. Oh, and here's another one that was really good. And again, you can't see anything until you pull the slider down. And here's Claire O'Leary, and she's in the, for some reason, in the Mary Potter Hospice story. But it's very easy to find them. So I wish you all luck in doing your searches. Over to you, Megan.
Thank you, Robyn. Really interesting, because really, really useful, just little tips to make our searches better, but also, as Barry quite rightly pointed out, so the keyword has the wee arrow in the context view, and so it's really easy to scroll down and see where the reference to the search term actually is, which is great. And some of the detail of information in those is amazing. It's great. Amanda had a question, but it was more to do with everything in the Wilson Index and the Kiwi collection. And I think that's probably a question that will be better addressed when we do our monthly presentation on the Kiwi collection, which is, I think that will be our next month presentation. We will be looking at the Kiwi collection. So if you don't mind, Amanda, I will actually leave your question until next month, and that just means that you'll have a really good reason to turn up next month as well, hopefully. I'd like to thank Robyn. Robyn, can I ask you now to stop your screen sharing?
Yep, will do. Oh.
I really, really appreciate your presentation tonight, and if we can just see you now, that would be great, so that when people have questions, it's actually going to be you they're kind of talking to. Amanda, I agree. She said, now I've got confidence to try looking at this. I think you don't know what you don't know until you know you don't know it, and it's, you know, that's the key to everything, isn't it? When we look at something, we can assume we think we know how a catalogue works. We've all used library catalogues and various other things, but every catalogue is unique, and it's really good to learn the strategies that work on different kinds of databases. And it's so good to see how much there is for those of us who aren't at the FRC or living in Auckland. I'm in Wanganui. What we can actually access through the library, and it is an amazing resource. As Sarah said, it's the only specialist genealogy library in New Zealand. So, you know, it's worth getting in there, and like we do with all kind of genealogy resources, scavenging around and seeing what's there, and just doing some on-spec searches, which really is helpful. I'm not seeing any questions. Oh,
Megan,
Ailsa.
yeah, there is
Ailsa,
one
you
thing.
have a question? Yep.
Megan,
Thank you. Sorry, I have to raise my hand because I can't get the bubble.
No, that's fine.
Thank you very much, Robyn. I really appreciated that. As you might know, I live in Brisbane, so I can't actually borrow any of the books. Now, previously, I've had wonderful service research from the ladies in the research centre, okay, which has been great. What I'm wondering about is if I do particularly find a book there, because I can't borrow it, would they be able to, without breaking copyright rules, scan a number of pages?
yes, they can, and that's what they would do if, so long as it is not too onerous to go through that you need to go through every page in the book. And that's why we try and concentrate on making the indicating whether there's an index or not. So it's either yes, there's an index, or no, that's not. And perhaps the other thing that I should actually say is that an index just doesn't have to be at the end of the book. It can be a lot of our books that we have for research purposes are in alphabetical order from the beginning to the end. So we say, yes, that is an index, you know, the whole lot.
Yes, yeah, that's great.
And yes, if they will scan, you know, so long as it doesn't break copyright. It's absolutely, we have to be very conscious of that.
I'm aware of copyright, you know,
Yes.
and the limitations. It's just sometimes, you know, like if you've got a very common surname,
Yes.
it can be quite daunting for anybody to go through and look at those particular pages. Thanks, Robyn.
Okay.
I need to use the catalogue again a bit more than what I used to use.
Well, that's why I was concentrating on some surnames that brought up things and showed you why you have to have a look in the various resources, because it is there for a number of them, and we are trying to add a lot more content to every single one, but it's a daunting task. There are thousands of books that still need.
You don't need to tell me that. We're doing that as well at GSQ.
Yeah.
So yes, thank you, Robyn.
Yeah. And
thank
so
you.
I'd just like to add another little thing that I forgot about, because I didn't have a note of it. Yesterday, when I was doing some accessioning, I came across a book called Oxford Church Courts, Depositions, 1570 to 1574. Now, I looked at it and I thought, what's this about? And so I had a look, and it's actually court cases of people that have taken, it's from testamentary court through different sorts of court cases, 101 cases. And then it didn't have a date on it. So I Google things to see if I can find it. And I discovered that copy is the only copy that's in New Zealand. The nearest ones, there's one in a library in Victoria and another in Sydney Library, but it's the only one in a New Zealand library. And there are many books like that that we have in our library.
Yes, I know. I'm very envious sometimes for not living there anymore.
That is the treasure trove that is there, isn't it? Great question, Ailsa. Robyn, I think your screen might still be sharing. I'm just wondering. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll stop sharing. There you are.
No, there we are.
We're right now. Sorry.
No, that's good. We could still see you. It was just we were getting a very small version of you. Are there any other questions? I haven't seen any other questions in our chat. Thank you so much, everybody. And Robyn, just really nice to see how many people are putting lovely positive comments. Thank you. That was worthwhile for me living so far away in Ohakune. And distant members not knowing how the system worked. And Barry Pycroft, with regards to copyright, did point out, you know, if you think about fair use concept and not actually using some of the stuff that you might get for fair use or personal research for publishing, then that's part of the core fundamental ethics of copyright law. So they're good things to think about. I have to say, it reminded me about using those Boolean searches, using an asterisk when you're not quite sure what it is you're looking for, or you're not quite sure of part of the spelling of a name. So it was good to see that we can use those in the library catalogue as well. Thank you, Robyn, because I probably wouldn't have thought to. Are there any other questions from anyone else? Yep, I agree, Ruth. A really excellent overview, and hopefully that just makes us all a bit familiar with the way it works.
And our library volunteers are absolutely, they just know so much about many of our resources. You just got to ask, you know, that, you know, that, and simple questions are much easier to come back to and answer really quickly. And you'll get lots of information doing it that way. Long, involved questions take a lot of effort from our volunteers. So simple questions. Yes, I can.
Oh, thank you, Kathy. I think you're right. Actually seeing the searches in real live action is really good. You can actually see a lot more about how those searches work. So I'd like to thank Robyn for being here and talking tonight, making things really clear, but also being brave enough, and I'm just going to say this, for actually going online during a live presentation, because let alone all of our sharing trials and tribulations, we all know that once we start, you know, going into the deep and murky depths of the internet and we want things to happen, it's always across your fingers and, you know, and think positively kind of situation. So there don't seem to be many more questions coming in, but I think that we can see that this has been a really valuable presentation, and hopefully what that means, Robyn, is you're going to get a lot more people using that catalogue, asking questions and requesting lendings.
Yep, absolutely fantastic. What we're there for. Yeah,
absolutely, and I think you've presented that really, really well. So please do get in there and use that rich resource. Like Robyn said, there are things there that aren't anywhere else in New Zealand. Get in there and do some ferreting around and real foraging, and you just never know what you're going to find. So thank you everybody who's come to the meeting. It's really lovely to see you. We're going to close this meeting in a couple of minutes. So if you don't have any questions, we're really at the end of our meeting now. We will record the meeting, so then this will go up onto the NZSG website so that you can refer other people to it if they're not sure how to use the catalogue. Tell them to go and have a look at real in-live workings of the catalogue. And just to remind you that we will have another meeting next month, and it likely will be about the Kiwi collection. So that will be really interesting as well. I think that there's a lot for us to really explore within the Kiwi collection. Also, a reminder that if you've got ideas about what you think it would be great to see, please give us your ideas. We would love to know what it is you want to see in these monthly presentations. And like I said, we're planning on having them the last Thursday of every month. So I will look forward to seeing a lot of you at our next meeting. And thank you for being here tonight. And thank you very much, Robyn, for being our second speaker in our brave new world. It's very much appreciated.